Welcome, greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you for joining me. God is good. Brand new week. Last month in the year. Blessings to all of you. Thank you all for the kind words in the chat. Understanding 72. Welcome, everybody. This will be another in-depth discussion pertaining to Mr. Goncalves and family's comments pertaining to Kaylee. We're going to dissect once again the timeline, a suspect, the motive, who is the killer, where is the killer? Are the assertions correct that Kaylee Goncalves was the target of these brutal murders? Or is it that she fought back? And what will her injuries reveal? Will they ever tell us, Mr. Goncalves and or the police department, the actual injuries of this young lady to coincide with the father's commentary? I have not understood his wordings as of late, his commentaries pertaining to the suspect going upstairs. I don't know if it's just he's angry because his child has been murdered, which naturally, of course, he would be, but the other parents are just as angry. So I don't understand the commentary why he would go upstairs. Well, if she was the target, that would be the reason. The only reason I could think you'd say that is if you thought it was somebody else that was the target. Did somebody tell you that it was another kid that was the target, Mr. Goncalves? Because your commentary is conflicting. Then you go on to say that the points of damage were different than Maddie, also conflicting with the going upstairs commentary. Because if the girls actually were on the third floor, the killer knew this, and that is why he went up there. So then that leads to, is the killer known to the victims? Thank you so much for the commentary, the kind words. Following this great network, 1,500 or so plus new subscribers in about a month. God is good. Amen. Like, share, subscribe. Hit that like button. Please follow Miss Jennifer Coffin-Daffer, ex-FBI agent, on Twitter. She gives updates to this commentary. Also, Brian Enton, if you'd like to follow him on Twitter to get the latest updates and his commentary. Thank you all so much for following Everyday Shenanigans. Let's get started. Source number one is News Nation. Idaho killings, how Kaylee's injuries could reveal motive.
News Nation has also learned Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her friend Maddie. The two girls were found together in an upstairs room of that off-campus home, but not much else is known about the extent of their injuries, particularly the other two students who were killed in the floor below them. Joining me now to talk more about the investigation, Tracy Waller, a former CIA officer and FBI special agent, and Lauren Mathias, former news reporter and the host of the podcast Hidden, a true crime podcast. To you both, we appreciate your time this morning. There's a lot of new information coming out about the crime scene. Whether or not it's helpful or it further complicates the work for investigators is yet to be seen. But let's start with the new piece of information that Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal. Tracy, let me start with you. What does that tell you? Is that helpful information for investigators as they're trying to determine if she was perhaps the target?
Thank you for having me, Morning. Yes, I think that that's incredibly important information. That's something I've said all along, and that's how they would differentiate whether this was a targeted attack or not, is that one victim may have had significant overkill more so than others. And since Maddie and Kaylee were known to be sleeping in the same bed at this time, it tells me that really Maddie may have just simply been in the way, more of a crime of opportunity, and Kaylee really would have been the target here. And I think that's very critical to investigators in terms of really figuring out what the motive was, who her inner circle was, or even just outside of that inner circle. So I think it helps them in terms of narrowing down the investigation because they do have this overabundance of evidence.
Well, and Lauren, let me bring you in here, because when I talk about further complicating it, they're in Maddie's room. So if Kaylee was the intended target, these two girls, best friends, many describe them as being almost like sisters. They looked very much alike as well. It was in the middle of the night. It was likely dark. So investigators have to determine, was the killer in the right room as well?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that Brian Engine made a great case for saying that this room was on the top floor without an easy entrance. Maddie and the room Maddie and Kaylee were in, and I think that also plays to them being the likely target. And I think that, as she pointed out, Kaylee is the likely target if she has more significant injuries. And I think that they actually went up to the third floor, and as Kaylee's dad said, he didn't need to go up there. And I think that also plays into this idea that these girls were absolutely targets, and most likely Kaylee.
Well, the other thing, Tracy, is there appeared to be no forced entry, right? There's still some question about whether there were locks on the door from the inside or the out, if they were keyed locks or had a code on them. But at least we know that the room that Maddie and Kaylee were in was locked from the outside the next day. Does that indicate to you that the killer locked it on the way out?
So yes, that does indicate to me that someone locked it on the way out, whether it was the killer or someone else. We truly don't know. I do fully agree, and this is sort of what I've said all along, particularly when going over the floor plan of the house. This person made a conscious effort to walk up those stairs. And it's hard to know, again, we're dealing with college students, right? And it's hard to know, yes, they had individual keypads, and yes, they had locks on their doors, but we don't know for sure if they actually locked those doors. I've been in college before. I teach college students, and this is something that unfortunately we do. And so there were no signs of forced entry. I think it's been widely reported that back slider on the second floor was consistently left open. And so that may have been an entry or an egress point.
But does it tell you, and Lauren, you can answer this, that the killer may have been familiar with the home when investigators are trying to determine if it was targeted?
I think so, and I'm having a hard time hearing you, Marnie. I am so sorry, something happened to my audio. But yes, I absolutely think that this victim could have known the home, or sorry, this perpetrator, this killer could have known the home, could have known the victims, could have been familiar with the home, been to the home before, which is also going to make it very complicated for investigators as they collect DNA. I do think that this was likely a targeted attack. I am with everyone who believes in that, and I think that the fact that this was allegedly a party house, and allegedly a house where many people came, I think they knew this house. I think they knew the victims, and I think that is a big possibility.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation.
All right, everybody, News Nation, source number one. It will probably be the source for most of the information besides Fox News. Let's chop up that first video. Thank you for joining me. Please hit the like button, share this to your social media platforms, get the Queen's name out there. Amen. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji, 129 Cash App, stickers, chats are welcome during this live. The dad's commentary about going upstairs. You hear this lady in agreement that Kaylee is the possible target, but it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm the only one. The comment going upstairs, why is he going up there? Well, that doesn't make sense if you think your child is the target and she's on the third floor. So why is he going up there? Well, he's going up there because there's somebody up there he wants to play funny games with. So his commentary doesn't match his alleged theory. If his theory is his child was the targeted one, she has sufficiently more wounds. Okay? So I'm curious to his commentary. Thank you, 72. The room door was locked from the outside. Who locked the door? The killer? Somebody else? What are we saying? How do we know the door was locked? Who told that information that the door was locked? I find this story so complex pertaining to the children because you're getting little bits of information from all of these news commentaries that have not been released by the police, such as the door was locked, who was where. Just little things I keep hearing from Nancy Grace, ex-FBI agents that are commenting. They're telling stuff that the police has never told. So what I'm trying to figure out is who's telling them this information, because I don't want to believe that the police is telling these different news agents information when they're the same ones that are saying that they can't give an update. No, nobody can keep up, honey. So where are they getting this information? Who told you that the door was locked? Who told you that the door was locked? This makes no sense to me. Who said the door was locked? Mr. Goncalves, please explain. What do you mean he shouldn't have gone upstairs, but yet you think your child is the target? I can only assume that's what you're trying to tell the public in a roundabout way. So please just come out and say what you want to say. You've already broken protocol by speaking to the public. I do believe the police have asked you to be quiet. You have decided to go against their recommendation. There's a reason they don't want you telling things as not to compromise the investigation. I understand you are grieving. I am not in your shoes. I don't know what it's like to lose a child, but something is sickening here because your words are conflicting. I'm going to say it again. Why did he go upstairs? The damages don't match. Points of damage don't match. So are you saying your daughter had more wounds than Maddie and the other victims? How do these other people feel about you talking so much? The police, how do they feel about you talking? Are they asking you to please be quiet? But you are not responding. Why are the other parents not speaking? I do believe Maddie's family are in cahoots with Goncalves' family in this public speaking arena. But when you make such comments, it is offensive to the others, because when you say, why did he go upstairs? That would make another parent think, well, I didn't want my child killed. And maybe my child lost his or her life because somebody was targeting your daughter. So you have to be very careful the words you use when you're talking about murder, because I could see how the other families would become offended by Mr. Goncalves and his wife's and daughter's commentary of points of damage. Why did he go upstairs? That's offensive to the other dead kids' parents. Maybe you don't see that, because they could also pass blame here. Well, my child's dead because of your daughter. Stay woke, everybody. Stay woke. Did the killer turn the knob, leaving out of the room after killing the two girls? Did they lock the doors that night when they came home? The slider is consistently open. Who told that information? Who told that information? Who told the public, the news, the slider is known to stay open? I want you all to think about that comment. The slider door on the second floor, I'm assuming they're saying second or third, because they both had balconies. Which door is known to be open? Second door slider, second floor slider, or third floor slider? So you have to be very careful the things that you tell. Now imagine the house gets cleaned up, which I'm sure it will. House redone, security systems, and the owner decides to re-rent that place. One, who's going to rent it? Two, why would you want to rent it? Three, why would you want to live there? Somebody's died in this place, plural. And every time you walk by the glass door, you're going to think, this is how the killer came in here. Hell no. And you're announcing this to the public. The glass door stays open, so people will automatically assume, well, the next one's moving. They probably won't lock it either. I wouldn't even want to live in this house for no reason. I don't care if I was a grad student, four-year college student, visiting Moscow, I would not live there. I would not. You hear in this commentary that the killer is possibly known to the house, been to the house. So how did he get in? Doors were open, windows were open. Hard to gather evidence such as DNA when the house is known to be a party house. If we believe the girls were a target or one of them was a target, they're saying they knew the house. Kay fought back. Did she fight back? That would also give her more injuries, especially if there were injuries to the face or neck. One would assume, speaking of her father, that she was the intended victim. Did the victim have more lacerations to the face, neck, upper body than the other victims? I'm assuming she had upper body injuries more severe, which is leading the parents to believe she was the intended target. But did he initially believe she was the intended target? Did he believe it was Maddie or somebody else in the house? I do believe that her injuries were more severe, possibly to the face and the neck, and this is why Mr. Goncalves has cremated his child. And that would make a lot of sense if indeed the child was deformed. I'm trying to use my words very sparingly, but it's very hard to try to describe the injuries without seeing the injuries, and I have to use my imagination. I do believe the upper body, we'll just say that, from the breast up is the reason why the family cremated their daughter. She would have possibly been not suitable for viewing of a funeral. Thank you all so much for listening to the content. Let's go to video number 2. All audio is on my community board. Thank you so much. News Nation has a upload 5 hours ago pertaining to an in-depth look at the murders. It's about 42 minutes long. Please check it out. It's on my community board as well. Let's go back to News Nation. Idaho college killings. Parents tell News Nation they are frustrated. Indeed. Indeed they are. Oh, Lord. Get this spam out of here. Sorry about that.
We're certainly not safe inside. The murder of 4 college students in Idaho still unsolved.
Yes, that's right. The investigation enters its 4th week. No suspect, no motive, no murder weapon. The parents of one of the victims actually sitting down with News Nation to discuss the injuries to their daughter and the lingering questions about the case. News Nation has been in Moscow, Idaho, covering the story extensively. Our Alex Capriello is there and joins us live. And Alex, I know you took part in our special report on this case on Sunday. What's the latest?
Yeah, good morning to you, Adrian. We had a bit of breaking news that we shared last night during the special report, and that was the fact that Kaylee's injuries were more significant than that of Maddie's. That's her best friend, the other young woman that was found dead in that same bed as her. Obviously, that's huge information and could really move this investigation forward. The police really haven't disclosed much since their last press conference about a week and a half ago, and they say they may keep it that way unless the new information that they present has been thoroughly vetted and won't harm that ongoing investigation.
News Nation has learned that 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves, who was slain more than 3 weeks ago, had much more significant injuries than her best friend, Maddie Mogan, a fact that haunts her mother, her father, and her sister.
It's terrible. I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios.
The family sat down with News Nation's Brian Enton, where they shared some of the issues they have with this ongoing investigation. They wondered if law enforcement cleared some people too early and why the police haven't privately disclosed their alibis to the families of the victims.
I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not maybe shouldn't have been.
It makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did. Let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
The mother of Xana Kernodle shared her thoughts with News Nation's Ashley Banfield.
I do not think it was the house that was targeted. I believe wholeheartedly that it was those kids who were targeted. They weren't just acquaintances. These kids were like best friends. They practically were family. These kids were tight-knit. They were good friends. They were like family. They were around each other constantly. They did everything together. How could it not be a planned thing? You know, how could it not have been targeted?
Over the weekend, News Nation captured new video of investigators combing through the crime scene. We watched through the windows as they handled evidence markers. Later, they left the home carrying large brown paper bags. Detectives have sorted through nearly 3,000 tips and poured over 4,000 crime scene photos, trying to make sense of the information they have. And still, there are no suspects and no persons of interest.
And this case has drawn significant national attention. For example, it's generated more than 116 million TikTok videos using the hashtag Idaho murders. Obviously, the police are really hoping that that type of discourse actually helps move this investigation forward. They hope people come forward with tips saying no tip is too insignificant. Adrian?
Alex, over the weekend, I know we heard from the very first time from the two roommates who survived that deadly attack. What did they say?
Right. They both shared written statements, which were read publicly by a youth pastor at a town in Idaho about an hour and a half north of here. They were really sentimental. They were very heartfelt. They spoke about all of the 4 victims that died. We have one of them for you. This one was written by Dylan Mortensen. It reads, I know somewhere Xana and Ethan are together, keeping each other company, watching us and telling us it's okay and that we have each other. Maddie and Kaylee, the inseparable duo, the 2 best friends that were like sisters. So clearly they are also going through their own grief and trauma right now as they try to cope with this very significant event that happened a little more than 3 weeks ago, Adrian.
All right, Alex, thank you for being there with us and for being there on the ground in Moscow.
Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
News Nation, source number 2. As I said, most of my sources are News Nation besides Fox News. Everything mentioned is on my community page via the YouTube queue. If you have a problem with anything said in this live stream pertaining to a source, I suggest that you take it up with the news agents. Thank you very much. Let's chop up video number 2. The parents are frustrated. No suspect has been revealed or apprehended. What were her injuries, Kaylee? You hear the mother talking about what kind of person would do this, why. The scenarios are going in her head. She can't sleep. She's trying to figure out who would do this to her child. Why would someone target her child? The police may tell the information, but will they? Will it hurt the investigation if the police decide to start revealing the injuries of the victims, who they believe is the target, who they have as a suspect, no suspect, a profile? Will they reveal anything this week or in the near future pertaining to this investigation? The fact that they continue to talk to the news, will this hurt the investigation? Are the police displeased with the parents talking to the news and revealing this information of person going upstairs, points of damage mentioned by the father in an earlier commentary I brought to you yesterday? You hear Xana's mother, she's an expo in this video. She's talking to a news agent by phone, and that's information I've already played to you. But basically she's saying that how could it not be a targeted hit on the kid or kids? They were like family, very close, tight-knit. This was the mother of Xana, Miss Carol, giving her commentary. They have issues with the people who were cleared. with alibis. Who are the people they have issues with? Is it one, two, or all? How many people have been cleared in this investigation? Because many of you were pointing fingers at random people who didn't even know the victim. This is why you don't speculate and accuse people of being a killer. I've also seen on somebody else's channel, please don't come in my chat with gossip. Please stop. I'm trying to be very diplomatic in my commentary. I do not want to get out of pocket talking about these kids. But I am not indulging in any gossip. I don't even get it off my tongue. You all won't even let me get my information out. It's rude. Very rude. I'm about to stop doing the lives and just do uploads. You all have no respect for the creator. Anyway, as I was trying to say, who are the people that have been cleared? How many suspects or people involved in the story known to the victims or not known to the victims? How many people have been cleared as far as neighbors, friends, associates, people who have introduced themselves in the case, such as Mr. Kelly, not Mr. Kelly, but Mr. Regan, who lives near the children. He's also brought forward DNA to clear himself because people were targeting him on social media, stalking him. The alibis. They wish that the police would quietly, privately tell them of the alibis of the people cleared. But would it help? Because then what are you going to do? Go find the alibis and then ask them, hey, was this one with you? Do they have a problem with the roommates and their assertion of what happened? Because as you heard the mother speaking, Kaylee's mom, she doesn't even know anything about the 911 call that was allegedly made by whomever on that morning when everybody was outside and people were falling out and passing out. The mother doesn't really know anything about that. So what I have to ask myself is, did they go to the kids directly, or are they going to ever go to them and ask them what happened? Who called 911 originally? See, these are things that they should be focusing on before telling all this other stuff to the news, in my opinion. I would have gone to the girls day one. When I realized that they were in the house, allegedly at the time of the murders, they would have been the first people I would have gone to and said, when did you get home? Did you see my daughter? Their friends. Did you have a discussion? Was there an altercation? Was somebody hanging around the house? Did you have company? Did you bring somebody over? Did you invite somebody over? Have you given the passcode out? Have you given a key out? Did you have somebody living here with you? Did you have somebody crashing here at the house? Hell, who are you? See, all this talking around in circles and going round and round, ask the questions to the people that live in the house. Because the thing I keep trying to tell you all about a story, everything's a version. When you get a news story, he, she, they got it from somebody else. Number one. Number two, they got the information from the detectives. Number three, they got the information from the district attorney. But in the end, those versions were spun, stay woke, spun to the district attorney, to the detectives, to the FBI, to the state police. Everything you hear about life is a version. This is why I do not argue about what somebody said. So did the girls tell the truth about that morning and night? Because they are the survivors. And we're betting on hoping that they are telling the truth to the detectives. So Mr. Goncalves and family, you need to refocus. You need to be talking to those girls. That's where you can get the start of information, because if the girls were close friends with all the other children in the house, they can give you a better idea of who was coming in and not coming in. What was going on I don't care about what the police said. That's my child. I can ask whoever the hell I want to ask about my kid. What fool is not going to ask a fucking roommate what they last saw in the house? The point is, they may not want you speaking to the public about the situation, but you do have a right to ask the people that live in the house what they last saw, what they didn't see. Now, I don't care what anybody says. I have every right to ask the person who lived in the house with my child what they saw, didn't see, what did they hear. That's how I feel. Now, some of the things that they're saying to the public shouldn't be released as far as wounds, points of damage, those type of things, because naturally law enforcement does not want that information relayed. But as far as the people in the house, hell yeah, I have every right to talk to you and ask you, when did you get home? When did you last see my child? The girls, was there a problem? Altercation, peeping Tom, things like that. You're entitled to your opinion on that. You hear him mention about strip club. The girls possibly being a target if maybe they went to a strip club or something of that matter. So basically, I think he's saying he could understand if the girls became a target randomly. Randomly. Somebody saw him at a bar, the grocery store, at school, followed them home. I'm assuming that's what he meant by strip club comment. Had they been out, somebody targeted them out, such as a random person, or it could be somebody that has seen the girls around, followed them home, made way into the house. He could see that. He also brings up the fact that he's talked to neighbors, and they're saying we would feel more safe if it was random. I understand that too. But the flip side of that is then you still aren't safe, because if you're chosen randomly, then that means it's anybody. So either way, it's dangerous whether it is a random killing or it's a targeted. And it can be randomly targeted. I see you out. I'm fascinated. You're coming out of the grocery store. I like what I see. I follow you home. And then I wait and decide if indeed I want to try to break in your house or kidnap you when you're coming or going out of the house. Either way, that's still sick. Because if a person randomly targets you, they will possibly randomly target somebody else if they get away with the crime. Stay woke. And we don't need to be sending any messages out to wacko sickos about randomly targeting young ladies. Yes, he's talking about out doing something edgy. But as you see in this life, it doesn't matter if the girls went to a strip club, bar. Somebody had a problem with Kaylee or one of the kids. And the fact that they killed the other kids shows this person is sick. Because there's no reason to kill Kaylee. Show us something horrible she did to you. You felt it was need to kill her. But instead, you killed everybody in the whole damn house except for the two. And I want to talk about that as well. The two that are remaining. Let me say this, because it's in my notes, in my theory notes, but I want to go on and mention it while I've got Pandora's box open about the going upstairs. Please listen to me very carefully what I'm about to say. Oh, Lordy. He says the person shouldn't have gone upstairs. But then the flip side is points of damage don't match, which to me are conflicting. It's like he's all over the place. I don't understand where he's going with this story. Maybe that's why he shouldn't talk, because his words are conflicting, or he doesn't know how to explain himself thoroughly without revealing what he really wants to say. So, Mr. Goncalves, are you going to tell us what the hell you're talking about? Because your words are conflicting. As I was saying, Lord have mercy. The person going upstairs is conflicting if you believe your child was targeted. They would go upstairs because they want somebody up there. But then you say the points of damage are different between Maddie and Kaylee. Well, if your daughter was the target, she would have more wounds if that's who his rage is against. So your comment conflicts with him going up the stairs. If he knows she's up there or he's trying to figure out where she is, he's killing whomever on sight. Thank you so much, Tia. I don't understand. I can't read the chat and talk at the same time. It's breaking me up. Then don't make all these paragraphs, please. This is why I always drop the link so people can explain themselves instead of typing. As I was saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. If we believe that the killer is known to the house, knows the victims, he specifically went to the 3rd floor knowing that she was up there. Explain to me how he would not know that the stairs go down to a lower level. Checkmate. So you have to pay attention. Mr. Goncalves, you've told on yourself about the layout and that something is still off with the story. If I'm to believe Kaylee was the target, Maddie was the target, in the end, it doesn't matter because the person didn't have any business being in the house. If I'm in the house as a killer, my mind is probably doing a whole lot of tossing and turning. But I want you to pay attention to what I'm trying to say because for some reason I can't get it off my tongue from looking at the chat. If the killer went to the 3rd floor from the 2nd floor, you want me to believe he didn't know the stairs going to the bottom floor. Stay woke. Because in the end, he still killed people on the 2nd floor who allegedly weren't the target. So I'm going to say it again because nobody's mentioning this, to my knowledge. My target is on the 3rd floor if I know them. If I'm a random killer, I don't know where she is in the house. Stay woke. But nonetheless, whether I am known to the victim, dated the victim, whoever the target is, explain to me why they don't know that there are stairs going to the bottom, because we don't know what happened on the 2nd floor with Ethan and Xana, how he came across Ethan, either going in or out of the apartment, out of the bedroom for him to be dead out of the room. So I'm going to say it again. How would he miss the stairs going to the bottom? Because if you're killing everybody from the 2nd to the 3rd, why didn't you go down to the 1st floor to check to make sure nobody was listening? Nobody was peeping around a corner. Stay woke. I am not trying to implicate the roommates, but there's something still off. Because I don't know who the killer is. So that's why I can't give an assertion pertaining to the layout of the house and how the person would miss the bottom stairs. How could you miss them? You're going to see stairs going up. If you're coming in on the 2nd floor, you're going to see stairs going down. So if you're just going to kill everybody from the 2nd to the 3rd, why wouldn't you go to the 1st, bottom, however it's set up? This is what's strange to me. Maybe there are 2 flights of stairs. I don't know. Exactly, Brittany. That's why I tell people, pay attention. Pay attention to the storyline and the versions. If I've been in this house before and I'm going to kill these other 2, Xana and Ethan, why would I not go downstairs, How do I know somebody wasn't getting ready to come up the stairs to get a drink of water, soda pop? They want to sit in the living room and then they hear all this stuff going on. How do you know they weren't even at the staircase listening? This is strange to me. Now, unless the killer was just in a frantic frenzy to get to that third floor, he just didn't care. He just went on straight to the third, or came down, killed the kids on the second because he crossed the paths with Ethan, then went on in the room and killed that girl. So now you got to ask yourselves, did he close the door behind where Xana was found? Did he shut the door of Xana's room, second floor? Because this is some strange information. I'm going to get back to my next video. Thank you for joining me.
Bluetooth connected.
It's a very odd storyline. News Nation was that second source. So I've brought you information of the parents being frustrated, talking about the injuries. I brought you also another information about Kaylee's injuries could reveal the real motive. Let's go to the timeline. Every second counts in a race to recreate the timeline. This is Mr. Brian N. Thank you so much for following the content.
At the Idaho State Crime Lab, and we're going to remain focused throughout all of this on the victims and their families. Over the next hour, we are going to be diving into all of the details of this case, learning more about the victims and their families, trying to make sense of this unimaginable loss here in Idaho. We're gonna go take you around the crime scene, show you what it looks like, as well as an exclusive look at the Idaho State Crime Lab. And we're going to remain focused throughout all of this on the victims and their family. To try and understand how we got to this point, first, we go back to the beginning. Moscow, Idaho, a beautiful, quiet college town near the border with Washington State, blanketed in snow this time of year, and home to the University of Idaho, with 11,000 students who have almost never had a reason not to feel safe.
The worst crimes we see in town involve things like bike theft or cars getting keyed or something like that. We're a nice little artsy town that provides a great quality of life to a lot of people.
But what happened in the early morning hours of November 13th has shaken this community like never before.
I'm scared too. This is a worrying time, but we also have the ability to understand that this is just another example that crime happens and it can happen anywhere.
Fear, college community still in shock following the brutal stabbings of 4 of their students. So many asking, how did this happen? We start on the evening of Saturday, November 12th. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan, where many college students spend their Saturday nights. At this local bar, the Corner Club on North Main Street in downtown Moscow. According to local law enforcement, the two were at the bar between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison moved over to a local food truck. You can see them here on surveillance video from the grub truck down the street on South Main Street. News Nation has confirmed the 2 women used a private party for a ride home from downtown to their home on King Road. The home is about a mile and a half, or about a 6-minute drive from the food truck. They got home around 1:56 a.m., according to digital evidence collected by investigators. Investigators also say Kaylee and Madison made several calls to an ex-boyfriend of one of the girls 7 times, raising some eyebrows. That person has now been cleared, according to law enforcement. Kaylee Goncalves' sister spoke with News Nation's Chris Cuomo.
There's no boy problem. There's no threat. There's no high-risk lifestyle that could have indicated this.
It has taken all of us completely by shock, and we have absolutely no ideas.
Another roommate, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were also out the night of November 12th. Investigators confirmed Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on the University of Idaho campus. Here's where things get a little shaky. Law enforcement confirms with News Nation, Ethan and Xana were seen at the fraternity house around 9 p.m. They reportedly made it back home around 1:45 a.m. Investigators are still trying to piece together what happened between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m.
Figure out who they were with and what was going on, maybe any routes or paths that they took to end up going home, those types of things. Potentially, that is critical to the investigation.
As for the two surviving roommates, they were also out on the night of November 12th in the Mossville community. They returned home by 1 a.m. The two surviving roommates did not wake up until later in the morning on November 13th. That is when they called other friends to the house because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones inside the residence. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before Moscow police arrived at the home. Officers discovered Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan dead inside the residence on the second and third floors of the home, suffering from stab wounds.
It was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And there were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
So many questions unanswered. Authorities remaining tight-lipped, saying there are many details they still simply don't know.
Thank you for watching. Go to News.
All right, everybody. Great commentary by Mr. Brian Enton. Thank you, sir, for your work with News Nation. News Nation is one of my sources besides Court TV. I have been doing a little bit of Fox. Not that I, want to get into all the political of this and that, but I just bring whoever brings the information. I decide to play their content. Let's chop up what was said by this source number 3. All audio is on my community board if you need verification for what you just heard. The timeline is being laid out. Girls put at the house at about 1:56 a.m. Was this through surveillance cameras, doorbell cameras, cameras inside the house, outside of the house, neighbors' houses, passing on the street? Somebody has a camera of the ride share or private person. Who is the person that gave the kids a ride? Uber rides, some other type of service, taxi service. Did this person make other rounds that night that puts them where they can be seen on CCTV, GPS from their phone? Who is the driver? Because if they are on camera somewhere else in the city at a close time after 1:56, then they would be eliminated as the suspect. Being followed from the bar, Grub bus, whatever you want to call it. How would the perpetrator be able to follow them from there if indeed the perpetrator was on foot and the girls got in a car? So now we have to keep asking, who is the driver of the girls that night? If a person was on foot and was fancying the girls, how would he be able to follow them and they got in a car? So you have to ask all the pertinent questions before making assumptions of who was stalking the kids. Okay? Common sense. You don't have all the facts, so you can't say it was the Grubhub, it was the bar. I find it interesting that the bar has not released any footage of the girls at the bar. Usually, there's a reason when people do not want to show you bar footage. It's because, 1, you've got stuff going on in the bar that you don't want leaked out. 2, somebody may be in there that was underage drinking alcohol. Stay woke. And people will start doing what you all have been doing, gossiping and spreading their names around and pictures around. And then the bar will probably get cited for serving kids underage. So why hasn't the footage been released from the bar that the girls were seen there, going in, coming out, and also patronizing inside of the bar? Why no bar footage? So you have to ask all the questions. Grubhub has released their video, but why not the bar? The sister tells you there's no high risk, no problems with an ex. How do you know this? Some of you believe the ex-boyfriend has something to do with this. I am not implicating or pointing the finger at anybody in the story because, one, I don't know the victims. I don't know anything about their boyfriends, ex-boyfriends. I don't know anything about the dynamic between the relationships of the people in the house, the roommates, outside participants, neighbors. So I can't say who has a problem, don't got a problem. Is the boyfriend the culprit? Ex-boyfriend. I do believe he's been removed as a suspect. Current boyfriend of Maddie removed. So what's the truth? She's called this person 7 times. Why? Wanting to hook up, bored, drunk dialing, what? Many people call people when they're intoxicated because you have sober thoughts when you're drinking. So you start to ponder on things with people. Your relationship, your non-relationship. You want to talk to them. You want to ask them questions. So you call them when you're drunk. It's no big deal. We also hear from her father that she dialed the police that morning at 3 to 911. What was that about? He said she didn't seem frantic or anything, didn't say anything. And this is from her text messages. So why would she be dialing 911 at 3 a.m.? That would lead you to believe she was awakened. She was up. Doing what? Sleeping, talking, drinking, still drinking, eating, bored. Was Maddie asleep at the time when she made the 911 call? We also find out that she was using Maddie's phone to call this ex-boyfriend. As someone said in the chat, possibly he blocked her or he wasn't answering. So she figured, well, I'll call from a different number, see if he will answer. Many people have done it. I've done it. Okay? You go use another phone to see if the person has, one, yes, blocked you or ignoring your phone call. So you go use another number to see. Did he know the other number was Maddie's? Because if he did, then he was one to ignore, he wouldn't answer. We get information that allegedly he was asleep. So this is why he did not respond to the phone calls. Is that true? Also, I lost my train of thought. There's something else I wanted to say about the phone call situation. The fact that he didn't want to talk about the phone calls. Why not? Everybody else is chirping like birds. Mr. Goncalves, I think I was pronouncing his name incorrectly. Mr. Goncalves has been talking, he and the family. So why, sir, did you not want to discuss the 911 calls? If there was nothing nefarious in nature in the phone conversations between you and Kaylee, why not just say, yeah, she called me. I was asleep. I tried calling her back when I got up, but I didn't get a response. What is the truth? Mama Bear, you need to calm down. Just calm down. So long as you're breathing, you're a risk. How about that? Because you don't know people. I am just dissecting information. I don't have a theory. I'm going to say it for the last time. I don't have a theory about what happened because I don't know the victims. I don't know their friends. I don't know what they were going through. I'm only chopping up the information as it's being revealed. Also debunking any theory as to bring some type of common sense and logic to the story. But I also know that this is an illogical situation because 4 children were killed. Oh, man. I got to do some better things. Once again, people have been cleared. Who are all the people cleared from this storyline? As I said, if it was somebody from the bar, they couldn't have followed them because you'd have to know what car they were getting in or if they walked to somebody else's house, apartment, condo to lie in wait or trap them in walking. But they got in a car. Whose car was it? Was it an Uber type situation? They call a taxi cab. How would you be able to follow the victims from the Grubhub? Especially if you were on foot yourself. You wouldn't be able to do that. Very interesting information. I also had got information a week or so ago that the girls were put on that timeline at 156 by a door camera. So which camera was it? One of the house's cameras, a camera at their house, somewhere outside, inside. I have not seen a zoom picture of the house to say what they had and didn't have. So some of you want to argue about there was no cameras there at the house. You don't know what was in the house. You don't know if there was a camera as a doorbell camera. You also can put the camera through the peephole. So you don't know. If you were tech savvy, you would know that. You don't know if they have cameras set up inside the house that are hidden. People do put things in their rooms. Due to the fact they got different people running in and out of the house, why would they not have a camera set up in the room? Sit it in the window, sit it in a plant. Just to make sure, in case somebody breaks into one of the rooms or the house in general, they'll have the suspect on a camera. So you can't say because you're not in the house, you don't know what was found at the scene, what's in the rooms. And I have not had a zoom in picture of the outside facade to say what is a camera, not a camera, doorbell camera, peephole camera. Is there a peephole in the door? Because you can put a camera anywhere. Lord have mercy. Man. I'm going to keep my comments to myself right now. Bringing you information pertaining to this horrific crime. Let's go to Fox News. The parents speak out about the different causes of death. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry I have to keep cutting this speaker on and off. It has a timer on it.
Bluetooth connected.
4 University of Idaho students were killed in cold blood while they slept. Police still have not found their killer, but now the father of one of the victims, Kaylee Goncalves, says that the manners of death for his daughter and her best friend Maddie were different. Christina Coleman now is live in Moscow, Idaho. Christina.
Hi, yes, the parents are desperate for answers. The Latah County coroner confirmed the cause and manner of death for the 4 murdered students as homicide by stabbing. And last night on Lawrence Jones Cross Country, Lawrence noted that there were differences in the way that Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen were killed per his sources, and Kaylee's father confirmed that. And again, Kaylee's parents believe the community should have more details on this case.
Their points of damage don't match. I'm just going to say it wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill.
The parents clearly frustrated, and police maintain that they are not releasing some information on this case because they say they do not want to compromise the investigation. Back to you.
Well, that's just heartbreaking, Christina. Thank you very much. I want to immediately play another clip from the father. Let's listen to this.
So I'm using logic that he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. And I can kind of tell by my daughter's texts, messages. She did call 911. She wasn't saying anything along the lines of like she had heard something or she was in fear. So I'm just
Make this make sense. He didn't have to go up there. Mr. Goncalves, what are you talking about? He didn't have to go up there. Well, if she was the target, that is why he went up there. I don't understand his commentary. And frankly, I'm getting frustrated because I don't know where this is going. Other people are chiming in off his comments like, oh yeah, she was a target. She was a target. Kaylee was a target. But his commentary don't match the theory that she was the target. You can't say she was a target, but then say he shouldn't have gone up there. Why did he go up there? Well, I think it's self-explanatory. He went up there because he went up there to kill your child or kill somebody. He did kill 4 people. So if one was the target, you have to ask yourself, why were the others killed? I paid for that. I paid for that. Basically talking about, I guess, the services. Or to have the child cremated, I would assume, because my understanding she's in an urn alongside Maddie's urn at their house. So that means the child had to been cremated. That's the only way you can get remains in an urns by cremating them, which turns into ashes, which goes into something. Box, urn, whatever. So I think he's saying, I saw what my child looked like. I paid to have her put in an urn so I can say what I want about how her body looked. That's what I'm taking from this commentary. Oh my God, I'm drowning. This case is just weird to me.
I'm just putting the dots together.
Yeah, Griff, this is one of the huge problems with this story. One, it terrifies every American. It terrifies every family as schools begin again. And yet now the parents, as we're learning, are as frustrated. It's as though we would have presumed the parents or the families would have known more than the American public. That seems to not be the case. What do you make of the statements now being made in public by these parents?
Well, at the risk of criticizing them, I call it sloppy, because you have to realize, even if you're a small police department, and David can speak maybe to this, the challenges, and you do have the FBI there and the behavioral analysis unit trying to figure it out. And we don't have a motive, and we don't have suspects or persons of interest. And it's 3 weeks now today. But the hardest job I've had as a reporter at Fox is the shootings, when I had to interview a parent, as Lawrence did, who lost a child. And as a parent of a daughter in college right now, I can only imagine I would be at that campus. I'd have 15 suspects locked up in a hotel room interrogating them. I would be so mad at this point, in the amount of really leeway you have to give investigators is running shorter and shorter and shorter. And now this, a conflict of the manner of death.
And I think that what's interesting is, we can understand the parents' frustration. I think they've had a lot of patience over the last 3 weeks, and especially if they are personally seeing evidence. And he referred to the funeral, he paid for the funeral. I take from that he saw that from his daughter's body, that something was different. And they know, and you heard the wife say, calm down, right? She heard this happening. This is in their interest. It's in America's interest. Do you think that this is something that we're going to find a resolution to at some point that Americans are going to be able to trust? What do you think?
Tammy, I would say that, first of all, I'm a little optimistic out of this, because it does seem that there is a lot of information that is being withheld from the American public, which that is obviously for investigational reasons. And so for the fact that the fathers are coming out saying that the methods of death are potentially different. One said that there was text messages and she did call 911. There has to be some more information there. And hopefully that does become public knowledge at some point so we can all understand a little bit more. But what I found interesting though, Tammy, I just want to say real quick, those two girls were in the same bed together, and they're saying that they had different manners of death. So that's very interesting.
Well, and see, I think that's it, that you're looking out information that it seems to make us question the nature of what the investigation's been.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard when the parent is seeing their view, the text messages, they're thinking through the grief. And I've interviewed these families. It is such a difficult thing, and understandably so. The police department, one, needs to get coordinated with the PIO, a public information officer, somebody is one representative. And between the agencies, as Griff talked about, the cooperation between the different parties. As far as the information, it is often more hopeful to have less information come out as they search for suspects, which becomes more difficult on the families. And unfortunately, time is a factor in both ways. The more time you may lose track of a suspect potentially, or more time can also let you flush out and eliminate who are not suspects.
And our biggest issues here as we close is the contradictions that we've heard from the police themselves. That does not help.
They need to coordinate.
But beyond the coordination, they know when they're contradicting themselves, and they've done so publicly. And that becomes outrageous. At any rate, clearly, we will learn more about this as each day goes on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Fox News is the source. Let's chop up what was said by Fox News. Thank you all for that commentary. Woo, mercy. I want him to just say what he means, because I'm trying to understand if he got information in the beginning of this investigation, if his child was indeed the target by law enforcement. Let's start at the beginning. Law enforcement, did you tell Mr. Goncalves and the family that Kaylee was or was not the target? If she wasn't the target in the beginning, who did you tell him, family, was the target? Did he just assume she was the target because of how her body looked? How severe are the wounds, and what part of the body has the most wounds? As I said, you would get more wounds if you're fighting your attacker, because he is attempting to kill you. So naturally, if you're fighting him, you're putting up your arms, you're kicking. So those are more lacerations to the body. Or as someone said in his commentary, the knife was big, so they're going to be deep puncture wounds and not just cuts. He didn't have to go upstairs. Once again, conflicting commentary. He would go upstairs if indeed she's the target, or Maddie is the target, or whomever he thought lived up there on that floor. I don't know the suspect, so I can't say. Because the fact that he killed 2 other people, we have to decide which door did he go in? Who was his intended victim? Was it random or not? Did he cross the path of somebody coming out of a room when he first got on the 2nd floor? So he killed that person, went in the room, killed the girl, Xana. She bleeds out. Blood's coming out the side of the wall if indeed that's her blood. Now, number 2, I go upstairs to my alleged intended victim, or was it random? Go upstairs if I'm intended. I get my victim, kill them, come back out, go out the 2nd floor, door, glass door. Is that how it went? Went in the 2nd floor, crossed the path with Ethan, killed him, killed the girl, Xana, then went up the stairs, killed the 2 girls in the bed. Which one was the victim? Maddie or Kaylee? Second of all, how is it that he didn't know there were stairs going to the bottom level? Because you're clearing up 2nd and 3rd floor. You don't want to see if somebody was, like I said, ear hustling. Because don't you think they were making noise? 2nd, 3rd floor. You want me to believe nobody was screaming? Come on now. Will the police give an update? With all this information being released by Mr. Goncalves and his family. It's very weird information. This is some strange stuff going on. Manner of death. Were the manner of deaths different between the 2 girls? So now we have to ask, was another weapon used in the killings of Maddie and Kaylee? Did the perpetrator bring another weapon or picked up something in the house to use as a weapon against 1, 2, or all victims? You hear they say that they had sources, which led them, the news, to go talk to Mr. Goncalves, and this is when he confirmed that the deaths were different and points of damage and so on and so forth. So who are the sources that were contacting the news that Kaylee was the possible target and that there were more damage done to her body than the other victims? And the only way you would know there was more damage done to the victim if one, yes, Liddy, exactly. you are the killer and you were calling the news and telling them she did this, this happened. You were in the room when she got stabbed. You're somebody that was in the house and leaked the information to the public. Because if I'm to believe that the girl's doors was locked, then that means the roommates couldn't have been in that room to see that they were dead in there or how they died and whose wounds were more prevalent. I'm not your bra. Who locked the door behind after coming out of those girls' room? Did the killer lock the door back? Did he cover the victims? Curious. Who are the sources that were releasing this information? That Kaylee's wounds were more substantial. And what are those wounds? Facial, neck, upper body, what? It's curious. Over 5,000 tips have come into the police department pertaining to this case. You hear this woman saying that the police were contradictory. Less should have come out by the other young gentleman that was speaking. Do you believe the police are doing their best to bring forth information? Why did they have a contradiction between the State's Department, District Attorney's Office, and the detectives? This is very strange information to me. Because they started having a conflict, or is that true? Or somebody's just trying to pass the buck because the father started talking. So we've got to make up something to put out to diffuse the stuff he's starting to say. I'm sure they're not pleased now with all he's had to say, because now we know that the girls died in the same bed together. We know that he thinks the perpetrator shouldn't have walked upstairs, which makes no sense to me. Then he said points of damage is different. So basically, he's saying what? The stab wounds to one weren't the same as the stab wounds to Kaylee. So one could use deduction that her stab wounds were more prolific to certain parts of the body than Maddie. And you also have to count what is also said in the commentary I brought to you, that it was dark. The girls favored each other, both blonde-haired. How would you even know who you're stabbing unless you knew them personally to know them apart? And of course, they do look a little different, but you understand what I'm saying. In the dark, how are you differentiating who's who in the dark? Unless the girls were up and it was daylight. What is this 911 call about? The fact he said she didn't say anything in her text messages. Well, then what did she say to the 911 dispatcher? Are we going to get information about the 911 call? Or was it a misdial? Because I don't know how you would dial 911 by mistake, but anything's possible. Why was she calling 911? What was the point? Did she hear something? Fear for her safety? Did somebody send her a threatening message, text message through inbox, messenger, IG, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter? Did somebody tell her they were watching her? See, we don't know. But he's never revealed that he saw anything in the text messages that was concerning or threatening, because I do believe in his commentary he admits, I didn't see anything in the text. But did he go through her phone thoroughly, through all her apps, to see who had sent her something possibly of a threatening manner? This is very sickening, this information. Let's go to some FBI agents about solving this crime. Thank you so much. That was Fox News. Retired FBI agent shares clues that could help catch Idaho student's killer. One day ago.
Colonel Marine, thanks for your time. Thanks for your service to the country. So in cases like this, the FBI, I would assume, has some people on the ground to assist at this point. What are they looking for in the killer? And what is the crime scene? What is their behavioral analysis unit, their profilers? What are they putting together on the scene to help local law enforcement?
Well, you hit on a number of things that they're doing, Dan. For example, the FBI is probably doing all the exploitation of the telephones and the and the devices that the girls and the male victim used. The behavioral scientists are looking very closely at the pre-incident indicators or the pre-offense behavior, and they're also looking at the post-offense behavior. And I think that that would be a really important thing for all the people that want to help and want to do something to focus on. For example, if you ever drove down that street late at night and saw a car running right near the location, you and I would both know and probably key on the fact that there might be someone doing surveillance in that vehicle. That's something to think about. And if you saw anything like that, let the police know. They're also going to key in on some of the post-offense behaviors, such as someone who is trying to act normal. Obviously, a big one is when someone leaves town, but that's of no use to the investigators at this point because half the town took off. Someone might also be trying to hide cuts or bruises or something, because when you go through a series of events such as this killer, you're probably going to get a little bit beat up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maureen, there's a couple questions I get about this. People ask all the time. They say, Dan's former cop, former federal agent yourself. I did not work murder cases. I just want to be clear on that. But they say seems like an angry, to kill someone with a knife in this disgusting, grotesque, tragic fashion is personal. I mean, not that it's better to kill someone, but you get the point. You're up close and personal. This is an act of rage. And how to do that with 4 victims without one of them screaming and warning the others. Do you have any ideas on what could have happened there?
Exactly. Very true,
well,
sir.
If they came home late and they were exhausted and they were, they had a couple of cocktails, they're going to be sleeping a little more deeply than average. This person may have, surveilled them even from that backyard, that wooded backyard that we saw, where
very true.
You could see pretty much right into the 2 bedrooms of 2 of the victims, one being Maddie with the M in her window that I just found very haunting. If you went one by one, and the interesting thing though is they're talking about these people being stabbed. They're not talking about their throats being slashed, and I don't mean to be graphic, but
yeah, no, I get it.
That would be the quickest way to stop anyone from screaming or fighting.
Exactly.
But haven't you noticed that they keep saying that they were stabbed and not their throats?
Yeah, a sad, tragic point, but a valid one nonetheless. And sadly, the kind of things in our prior line of work, this kind of stuff we had to just deal with. Maureen, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube.
All right, everybody. Very interesting commentary. Let me see what everybody else is hooping and hollering about in here. Hold on one second. See if I see anything new here about this case. I'm going to go on with my commentary. I'm already hour in. Thank you, Thumbling. Thank you all so much. Hello, everybody in the chat. Welcome. 246. Okay, everybody, here we go. This is my commentary pertaining to the footage, audio that I've just played. Please check my community board for verification of all sources. Fox News, News Nations, they are the source. In this last commentary by Fox, pertaining to clues to catch the killer, turn the speaker down. Were the necks slashed of any victims? The girls had been drinking, do not know how much they had to drink. Were they sleeping in deep sleep when approached by the killer? You hear this woman mentioning the backyard, very creepy to her, the windows, how someone could watch. That's my point. They had eyes on them from every side of the house, from front to back, side to side. Houses to the left, apartment building to the right, houses in the back of the house, and an apartment building in the front of the drive with a dumpster that sits in front, which will be the back of an apartment building. So the back of an apartment building faces their house with abundance of windows. How many units are in that building? Because anyone could sit there and gawk all day and night whenever they came home. Used also a telescope to get a zoom in. Girls on the top floor with no curtains. You get a bullseye view of what's inside the room, if possible, this was a disaster waiting to happen. Living with so many people in a house with different friendships, courtships, issues, problems, stalking, doxing, whatever, that now puts you in harm's way unknowingly. And people don't think about those type of things when they live with other people. When you live in a house or apartment, and maybe somebody else lived there that had domestic situations. You're not going to know until it's too late. Once again, how would the killer know she was there? Kaylee, if she is believed to be the target. The best point I've heard in all the commentary as of late is that Kaylee was in the room with Maddie's room, not her own. I want you to think about that for just a second. Kaylee was in Maddie's room, but not her own. This will lead you to the possible killer. Because someone in the chat said she had moved out. Is that true? Because this is how you're going to find the killer. Stay woke. Okay? If she did not live there anymore, listen carefully to what I'm saying now. If she did not live here anymore at this house, then how did the killer know she would be there? Number two, she bought another vehicle. How would you know what vehicle she was in if she sold her car? So if I'm stalking, watching the house, I don't see her car anymore. Do I move on? Or do I try to find her where she's at, her location? So Queen needs verification that Kaylee moved out of this house. Naturally, we're at the end of the year. Maybe her lease was up. She's also graduating in January, but I can't see you just moving out when you still have classes. So when would have been her last classes at this university? Hold on 1 second, guys. Thank you, Britt. I don't have any verification of anything. Till I get a verification, I do not claim anything about the victims. Because I'm going to keep saying this to everybody here. Everything you're hearing is from the family of Kaylee, not the police. And right now, the father is making conflicting statements. I don't know what's the truth. Anyway. If she moved out, how would the killer have known that she moved? Because she had bought a car 2 days before. She's changed the car. How would you know? That would lead you to believe she posted things to social media about the car. The killer knew she purchased a new car and she posted to social media that night. Then now I know she's in town. So I'm going to say it again. Did she move out of that house? If so, how did the killer know she was there if she moved out? Did the killer know she had moved? Took a chance riding by the house, hadn't seen the car in a couple weeks. Voila, I drive by, now I see the car there. Or I spot her out of town. Downtown somewhere. Or, as I said, she's posted to social media. Did she post to social media being at the bar and the Grub Hub? If she went live, then whoever was stalking her, if I'm to believe it's a stalker, then he would know, one, her location. Two, he knew that she stayed at the house. Let's say she still stayed there. Then he knew to find her there. This is where I'm having the problem with this storyline. The room was dark. How would you have known the two apart if it was random? Stay woke. Both blonde. Favored each other. So if it's random, how would you know the two? If they're sleeping, face down, sideways, room dark. Once again, Kay's dad making all these comments about going up the stairs and points of damage. The killer didn't need to go upstairs. What does that mean? Once again, if this is random, the killer would still have to differentiate the two in the dark. So did he cut the light on? If she moved, he would hope that she'd be there if he's been watching the house. So see, we don't even know who the killer is. Did he stalk the house for 2 weeks or more afterwards or what? If she moved. As I said, if she moved, then the person would have to have been watching the house, or she gave information to the killer on that fateful night. Did she post to social media? So then the killer would know where she was in town. But how would he have known the address if he was random? He wouldn't. He would only know this if he's been watching social media accounts, which we did see something she posted did have the address on it. And I'm assuming that'd be the address on King Road. Random killer. He searched it, if I'm to believe Kaylee was his target, killed the friends as collateral damage, but killed the other friends. Sleep, not asleep. Why kill them? Ethan out of the room. He was either going in or coming when the killer entered the house, assumedly through the second floor glass door. Is this true? He killed him as not to be a witness. Went in and saw the other room where there was a victim. Xana kills her. But if I'm to believe she made it to the wall to die, maybe she was trying to get out. They had a struggle. He killed her there, and that's where she collapsed dead and bled out to the outside of the house, and we're to believe that's Xana's blood. He had to check the other room that was vacant on the second floor. Didn't see anyone sleeping there. So, which room did he go in if he confronted Ethan first? Empty room or the room with Xana? Which is the order? If the killer entered the second floor and he knows the house or was invited, did he go straight to the third floor, kill the girls? But then you have to ask yourself this. If one of the girls invited the killer over, why would you want to invite a killer over and you've got somebody else sleeping in the bed with you? Okay. Why would Maddie invite somebody over knowing she's got Kaylee in the bed with her? It makes no sense. And especially if the girl didn't live there, Kaylee, it still wouldn't make no sense to have a guy come over for company, boyfriend, whoever, and you've got Kaylee as a visitor. If Kaylee still lived there, it wouldn't make no sense to call somebody over knowing she's in the bed with you. Same thing for Kaylee. Whether she lived there or not, you know you're in the girl's bed. Why would you call the killer over knowing you're sleeping in the bed with your friend? Weighing all possibilities and theories. Very strange information. Killer knows Kaylee and Maddie entered the second floor, went directly to the third floor, looking for Kaylee, got there, was in a rage, saw them both, killed them both. Savagely killing Kaylee. Worse. What was worse about her? What's the manner of death more than just stab wounds? Was she strangled, beat with fists, another object? Did the killer bring another object besides a knife? What is the truth about Kaylee's wounds that the father sees different? Because once again, points of damage, this is my guesstimate. He's seen the text messages. She called 911, didn't say anything. What was the purpose of the 911 call? If I'm to believe that this is a personal killing of Kaylee, then he knew her, went deliberately to the home, went directly to the 3rd floor, searched the rooms from 3rd to 2nd, and killed both. Killer knows of Kaylee. Crossed the paths on the 2nd floor with Ethan by accident and killed him as a witness, and then went in the room to kill Xana. Next scenario, went to the 3rd floor first, made his entry, stabbing whichsoever. Ethan heard the noise, came out. Killer finished killing them, came down the stairs, saw him, they struggled, and he killed Ethan outside of Xana's room. He then went into Xana's room, which possibly had a door open, killed her. So he either went in that room directly after killing Ethan, or he went in another room on the floor. So what's the other room on the 2nd floor? Was the door open or closed? Random. Killer didn't know who all these people were, but just assume it's a house full of girls. So he just went in through the 2nd door, and would believe that's the way he went in, 2nd or 3rd, killed whomever, went room to room. What's the truth? Because if it's random, the killer wouldn't know where any of the people stayed in the house, unless he had been watching the house and just happened to stumble across Kaylee coming in that day, if we're to believe she did not stay there. Like I said, if the person is random and watching the house, why follow through stalking the house and you don't see your target? Why do it? Why kill these other kids in the house if indeed she's the target? If this is a random killer, he would not know Kaylee's new car unless he saw her come over that day, had been watching the house anyway if she was the target and didn't live there. So that would lead me to believe if she did not live there, listen to me carefully, if Kaylee had moved out, the killer didn't know she had a new car, then that means he was watching the house and lives across the street or beside the property, either left, right, behind the house, or the apartment building in front, because that is the only way a random killer would know Kaylee was there if she was indeed his target. You got to prove how would a random person know she would be there if she moved out. Stay woke. Next scenario. Kaylee told her killer where she was. The rest is history. Why didn't the killer notice the stairs going downward? Random or known to the victims. You're killing innocent people who are not your target. So were they your target too? Brat pack, good friends. They're all in cahoots together with this woman I don't care for, like, jealous, envy-hearted, taking everybody down. Why didn't the killer go downstairs? Because you cannot make me believe he did not look around this house, because you do not know if he took souvenirs. You do not know if he was rummaging through drawers, through closets, trying to take anything personal of the victims, looking for money. People who murder do tend to steal from their victims. Some do, some do not. I don't know the mindset of the person who did the killing. I know they're devious because they snuffed out 4 people. But did they steal anything, take anything, rummage through drawers, take underwear, bras, lipstick, makeup, photographs, iPhones, iPads, took anything to show and look at and revel and bask in the glory of killing these kids. A random target can still know that a person lives somewhere. Because you're talking about 5 cars outside. Why would they choose this house? Because some of the houses are, the house outside looks like a guy could live there. So randomly, why would he just go in the house with SUVs and trucks outside, not thinking there were men that lived there? So see, if it's random, you don't know. But you still can have a random target. He don't know the people, but he likes what he's seen there. You all don't listen. Random means a random perpetrator. Doesn't mean he could not have seen the house coming and going and saw a pretty girl that he fancied. He didn't have to know her. But he's a random guy to the victims. That's what I mean by random. Because in my right mind, if I'm going to just say a random house target, he took a chance by going in a house with 5 cars outside, not knowing if men lived there. A random target would not know if her car, if he hadn't seen her car, he wouldn't know she bought a car. As I said, unless he saw her come over, had been watching, which means he lives across the street, next door, or behind the property. Across the street, he would have a bullseye view of any of the occupants and visitors coming in and out of the house. So does the killer live on the same street? Did Kaylee tell her killer she was there? As I said, the rest would be history. Why didn't the killer know the stairs going downstairs? If indeed he was killing Xana, he killed those 2 as not to be eyewitnesses. Why not go through the house to look to see if anybody else was living there or listening to the murders? You want me to believe that nobody heard them scream and that the victims did not scream. Did the victims scream? Some fought back. We hear from the coroner that some fought back. Can you hear people scream from the basement? Can you hear people scream from the 2nd floor and then the 3rd floor? Were the bottom roommates asleep? Once again, Kaylee calling 911 at 3 a.m. Why? Father says texts were not discriminatory, I guess around that time or altogether. So why did she dial 911 at 3 a.m.? Once again, if Kaylee did not move out, the killer is what? Random, known her, knew of her, stalker. Who is the killer? If I'm to believe she moved out of this house, how did the killer know she was at this house? So that's why I need a receipt that the girl moved out of the house, because you now got to show how a random person that knew her, knew of her, found her at the house. Especially the fact that she bought a new car. So that leaves the option of 1, she told the killer about her new car. 2, she told the killer she would be there visiting the girls. 3, she posted to social media the new car. She posted to social media that night that she was in town, went live on live streams at the bar, Grubhub, different places. So the killer then knew she was in town and assumed her location. So this is where it gets dicey in trying to figure out who the killer is. How did the killer know, number 1, she was at that house if indeed she had left the house and moved out 2 weeks before? 2, posting to social media her whereabouts to either an unknown killer, stalker, or somebody that knows her, ex-boyfriend, so on and so forth. 3, they saw address on a photograph to know where she lived and took a chance to go by the house, assuming she was there, whether she lived there or not. What is the truth? It's a very, very dicey case. At first, I read that it was 3,000 tips given in this investigation. My last commentary says 5,000 tips have been given to the police department pertaining to this investigation. 4,000 photos have been gathered in this crime. 116 this said 116 something. Wait a minute. Got what I wrote. I can't remember what it is. I think it was 116 videos. I'm not really sure. They said they hope that this helps. Oh, 116, couldn't read my handwriting. 116 million TikTok videos made about this crime. Ellie says they hope that it helps and generates tips to the police department from the public, since it is a newfound interest on social media pertaining to this crime. My points pertaining to everything I've brought to you by a source and given information by the family. Do the remaining roommates have survivor's guilt? They live an hour and a half away and have given statements pertaining to the victims. Are the roommates together, living in the same town, or living together in the same home, place, apartment? The commentary that they gave was just basic commentary about the decedents. It goes as follows. Talking about the two besties, Ethan and Xana, being together as a couple. But the one thing I didn't hear in the statements is that I miss you. I can't believe this happened to you. Prayers to your family. Is it possible I did not hear the entire statement by the girls to the public? I can't believe this happened. Why not say you can't believe this happened? Because this is a shock to many people. Why didn't the girl say, I miss you guys? I can't believe this happened. I'm devastated. The person reporting this believes this was a heartfelt letter written about the victims. Are they scared for their safety since Ethan and Xana died? Are they still in danger? Are they in danger since they're the surviving witnesses, alleged survivors? What did they see? What did they hear? Do they wonder who did it? Did they invite someone over that night, that morning? Have they given out passcodes, keys to any other person pertaining to this house? Did they lock their doors that night? Did they hear anything pertaining to the suspect? Screams, bumps. Second floor is where Ethan and Xana were. So you had to have been sleeping mighty hard not to hear a 6-foot guy fall to the floor. Stay woke. So had they been drinking that night and were sleeping hard? Because as I said, 2 people fighting for their life on the second floor, you would have to be in deep sleep not to hear a big guy fall down and struggle also with the perpetrator. Was anything knocked over during the struggle with Ethan and Xana? Anything thrown about in the room? So you got to pay attention to the details because they're not telling us anything from law enforcement pertaining to the status of the house. Was anything in disarray? Anything thrown over, flipped over, broke? Where was all the blood splatter? In the rooms, outside the rooms, trails. Because the perpetrator had to be bloody, stabbing these kids. 4 kids, he's bloody. So you have to ask also, what did he have on? What did he wear? Stocking cap, baseball cap, skull cap, knitted cap, pull over with the eyes and nose and mouth exposed. COVID mask. What did he have on? What did he wear? Did he wash up there at the scene? Leave behind evidence, fingerprints. Where's the weapon? Did he cut himself? Leave behind blood, DNA, urine, fecal matter. What did he leave behind? 2, did he wash up? 3, point of entry, point of exit. And why didn't he know about the bottom stairs going down? I would assume he would have seen the stairs to lead him to the bottom level, which would have been the entry and or to also the basement. I do not know how that bottom floor entry is made. Someone said it's just an opening and then you go straight up to the stairs and it leads to the second floor. But that would be kind of strange. But there are places that are made like that the first entry you open up, there's nothing there but like a hallway, and then you take the stairs on up to the other floors. So if he came through the bottom, which is the driveway, he would have had to know that there was another way to go down to a basement. Stay woke. Did the roommates tell the truth about what they witnessed that night and the next day when they found Ethan in the house? Did they see the girls dead? My understanding, the door was locked, so they wouldn't have been able to see the girls deceased in the room. But they would have been able to see Xana if indeed the door was open to her room. The versions they gave to the police, are they the same as the versions they've given to other people? Have the girls spoken to the family? Have the family attempted to contact the girls? If the girls have not contacted the families, why not? And why hasn't the family contacted the girls, since they are the living witnesses of the house? That is too important of information not to reach out to the girls. If the girls have not spoken to the Goncalves and other families, when do they intend to call them or talk to them? My understanding, the mother made a comment, she hadn't talked to the girls. Will the other families, Chapins, all of them, call the girls to ask any type of information? I'm shocked that nobody would not talk to the girls due to the fact they lived in the house and they are the survivors of the house. Why would the families not talk to the girls to ask what was going on at the house? Who was getting along with the other one? Who had a falling out with somebody outside? Did you all have a falling out? Were there any indifferences of you guys in the house? Who had been coming to the house? Did you give a key to somebody, a passcode to somebody? Did the girls give a passcode? Do you girls normally lock all the doors, glass doors, windows? Anybody creeping around? Any altercations? Any 911 calls? Any complaints from other neighbors? That's what you do when somebody shows up dead. You ask questions. You ask questions. Because there's no way I'm not going to ask these girls any questions, and they are the survivors. Allegedly, they're supposed to have been out of town that day. Where did you go? When did you leave? Were you two together, not together, separate? What? Why not ask? Instead of talking in circles about who wasn't supposed to go upstairs, more damage done to this body versus this body, I've been trying to talk to those kids. I would have went to the neighbor's house. I would have talked to the roommates first before making any statements to the news. Then when I couldn't get any information from from the police, then possibly I may have said something publicly about my child and the case, but I'm not in their shoes. Naturally, he's angry. The family, they're angry. So it is what it is. They've decided to come out and talk about the state of the bodies of the victims. Are these girls going to return to school, or have they left already? Personally, I would never live in a house with this many people. That's my personal opinion pertaining to Queen. Will these girls ever live in a house with more roommates? I doubt it, under the circumstances. The fact of living with a lot of people is the obvious. The fear of drama, complications, theft, assault, too much traffic coming in, people having access to the house, giving out keypads, keys, and coming home and seeing somebody in your house that you don't even know who the hell they are. That is too much of a gamble to take, living in a house with 5, 6 people. Because you should know they're going to have outside friends, they're going to have outside family members, and I just am the type, I like my privacy. Now, naturally, it was cheaper probably to live this way because the cost of living is expensive. College students don't have salary jobs because they're also attending school, so they have to do what they can as far as paying bills, paying rent. So they split the rent with a roommate. But this situation was dangerous because you did not know that somebody had it out for one of the girls. And we do not know who the suspect is. Do the cops have an idea of a suspect? Do they have a profile? I do not know. I hope that they do. But this is a dangerous situation to be living with people and not know the ins and outs of what your company roommates are doing. Because anybody could be involved in drug trafficking, selling of a body, nefarious deeds, hanging with the wrong type of company, and that shit can come back and boomerang back to the house. Because if anybody in the house falls out with somebody, goes out there wreaking trouble, you can't think that shit won't come back to that house. And I'm not saying that anybody in the house was out here doing anything deviant, illegal, but in the end, the Reaper came to that house and he snuffed out 4 people. No matter who the target was, no matter who he was angry with, random killer, known killer, 4 people are not alive. That's the point of the story. 4 people are not alive. You hear the sister talking. That Kaylee was not a high-risk individual. She didn't have any problems with a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. My thing is, how do you know? How do you know what issues your sister had with a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, or anybody else? Did she tell you she didn't have any problems? The father allegedly says somebody was bothering her, but he didn't have any details. Obviously, Kaylee didn't give any names. Maybe she didn't know the name of the guy. Was he stalking her by foot? At work, school, through emails, Messenger, WhatsApp, IG, Messenger, what? She called her ex-boyfriend 7 times. Why? Her prerogative, she was grown. Maybe she missed him. Maybe she was drunk dialing. Maybe she was drunk bored. It happens. Many women call men when they're drunk. People they've dated, had sex with. Guys do it all the time. So it's really no big deal about her calling the ex-boyfriend. The driver, once again, does his GPS put him away from the scene after 1:56? Was he working other errands, drop-offs? Is it a man or a woman that dropped the kids off at the house? Will he or she be seen on CCTV to verify they had no involvement in this crime? Or did they get a personal friend to drop them off, he or she? Same analogy. CCTV for that person as well. Verify they were nowhere near the crime scene. Once again, the bar, the Grubhub bus. How would the person be able to follow them home if they were indeed on foot, parked their car a little ways from the said locations, and the kids jumped into a car? He would not be able to follow them if this was a random stalker or somebody fascinated that just saw the girls out that night. How would he be able to find them when they jumped into a car? We don't even know who the person's car is that they jumped into. The killer would not have been able to find them because we do not know if the killer even had a car if we'd believe he's a stalker from the bar or the Grubhub area, or just saw them out walking down the streets. We hear it's a 6-minute drive from the Grubhub to the house. So that means he couldn't have followed them from that general area. I doubt that. I doubt that he saw them out and followed them from that area of the bar scene. Because like I said, they got in a car and the killer would have had to been parked right near the kids and jump in a car and try to hunt them down. So you got to prove that. Only the police has the information pertaining to this gruesome crime. Will they bring us any information pertaining to a suspect and a profile of a killer? If there is a profile, what is the profile pertaining to the murderer? Was Kaylee Goncalves the target of these brutal murders? Was she killed by another means besides stabbing? Were the other victims killed by any other means of stabbing? What were her injuries? How many stab wounds? Upper body, more? What happened in that house? Who was the suspect? New acquaintance, new date, old acquaintance, old sexual partner, ex-boyfriend, stalker, random person, neighbor. Who was the killer? And why did they kill this child? And why did they kill all of these innocent people inside of the house? And why leave 2 remaining? So I have to ask, did the killer walk all the way through the house and realize there was rooms down on the bottom level, but decided not to bother the people in those rooms? Did he check the doors of the bottom level? Grab the door handle? So you don't know. Nobody's telling you nothing. Because I guess we don't know. So did the killer walk all the way through the house and realize there were rooms on the bottom level, but the doors were locked? And is that the reason why possibly those 2 are alive? Because their bedroom doors were locked. If those rooms were locked on the 2nd and 3rd floor, did he bust them open? See? We don't know that, because that would make noise. People would be screaming and hollering, could draw attention. What happened? Point of entry. Which floor did he go to first? Does he know the victim? Was she an intended target? Were their doors locked? Did he breach the doors, pick the locks, bust them open? Did the bottom roommates hear any screaming on the 2nd or the 3rd floor, or were they in deep sleep? And have they told the truth to investigators about that fateful morning and their discovery of Ethan, the phone calls to 911, the gathering of people outside, which became this infamous 911 call that got distorted, which I don't understand how that could have gotten distorted if the truth was told. What is the truth to these brutal slayings? Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Biaggi, 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome. I am now approaching hour number 2. Make it worth my while, this live stream, if you want to give your opinion pertaining to the information revealed in this live stream and this young lady being the alleged target. Was she the target? What were her wounds? Was she killed in another manner? Other weapons? Strangulation? Beat up? Beat with another object? Beat with the perpetrator's hands? Anything left behind? Body, face covered by blankets? Bodies posed? Anything's removed from the scene of the crime? Underwear, bras, money, jewelry. And will the police give an update pertaining to this devastating crime? Thank you all so much for your time and patronizing everyday shenanigans. My next live will be pertaining to Shanquella Robinson. Going to bring an update pertaining to Nancy Grace, who has spoken with her mother. Thank you so much. And I will try to bring an upload pertaining to Young Dolph's killers and Takeoff's killer, who has just been arrested. Sorry I'm late with that information, but every day I look up, there's something coming out about this case. So it puts me behind. Sorry, it's winded information, but I wanted to get everything out, and I wanted to try to be descriptive in my commentary, best to my ability pertaining to the information brought by my news sources. If you have a problem with any information relayed by a source, as I said, the best thing to do is to contact Fox News or News Nation. I am just bringing forward the information. This is a commentary channel, and I'm just dissecting the information relayed to the general public. I do not have a theory on who killed these kids, and nor do I know of a motive. I will not give a rendering of who killed the kids or why they killed the kids. The link is in the chat. If you'd like to join this live stream panel to give your opinion on the said information, the title of the video, all sources are in the YouTube queue and my community page if you need verification for the information. Thank you for joining me. That's why I'm trying to understand who was the actual target, if indeed she did move out, because that won't make any sense. You'd have to prove the killer or a stalker knew she'd be at the house if she indeed moved out. So that's my first verification I would like, is to know, did Kaylee move out of this house? Hit the link if you want to give your opinion pertaining to this case and this information from the father and family. She didn't have any boyfriend problems. Can't understand why she was targeted, hurt. Don't believe it's random. So who do they think killed their child? That's what I'd like to know. Do they have a possibility in mind of who killed the child? Have they been hearing different things in the streets, rumors? Has the police hinted to them about who the killer is? What is it that Mr. Goncalves is trying to relate to the public that he has not done so? Because he's been talking around in circles. He needs to just say it already or stop talking. Happy holidays to everybody in the viewing audience. Thank you so much for your time. Let me see. Coffin Dapper has posted something here. Oh, Lordy. This is from Jennifer Coffin Dapper's Facebook page. Textbook FBI verbiage. Their footprint is all over this case, thankfully. Cats are out of the bag, but LE will do their best to halt any further details being released. Their only focus is solving the case and bringing someone to justice. No other agenda. This is Coffin Daffer's opinion. This is a press release pertaining to this crime, Moscow homicide, December 5th, 2022 update. The Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the 4 members that occurred on November 13th in Moscow, Idaho. There have been statements and speculation about this case, victim injuries, cause of death, evidence collection and processing, and investigative techniques. With the active criminal investigation, law enforcement has not released additional facts to the family or the public. We recognize the frustration this causes and that speculation proliferates in the absence of facts. However, we firmly believe speculation and unvetted information is a disservice to the victims, their families, and our community. The Moscow Police Department is committed to providing information whenever possible, but not at the expense of compromising the investigation and prosecution. Someone replies, that's a no-brainer. It was only a matter of time. The irresponsible speculation is gaslighting these poor families. Trust the process, diligence, manpower, patience. Jennifer Coffin-Daffer responds, thank you. Agreed. Somebody also replies to Coffin-Daffer. Ellie needs to drop the ego and turn it all over to FBI. It is clear that Moscow police are unqualified to handle this case, just as Rexburg is unqualified to handle the Vallow Daybell case. They have never seen anything like this before. Interesting. Lorraine responds to Coffin-Daffer. I know not likely, but any, capital letters, chance this is a female suspect. Somebody else replies, they should, in order to keep people like you out of their hair. All your conspiracy theories and speculation just interferes with their investigation. Leave it alone and let Ellie do their job without interference from you. Okay. This is Tracy T. I guess she's saying this to Coffin-Daffer, I guess. I don't know. Somebody else replies. Miss Carey says, good. I'm afraid Kaylee's dad is going to mess up the investigation by speaking to the media. Interesting. Lynetta replies. L replies to Lynetta. Preserved investigation. Lockdown details would give us a suspect already. POI, sketch something. Going back to the reward. I'm sure at the right price, frat brothers could turn on each other and start giving them the leads Ellie likely are still searching for. Why the pushback? First of all, you have to prove that the guys at the frat house have knowledge of a killer. So I don't think it's a good idea, as I've said before in this investigation, to point fingers at people. You all have been pointing fingers at every person you could find. If they weren't in a fraternity, if Ethan wasn't in a fraternity, you'd be pointing at his cousin, brother, his dog, cat. You're just finding anybody to point the finger at. You weren't about a scholarship put in his name. You weren't about funding. People fund fraternities as alumni. But if you have never lived the college life or the Greek life, you would not know that. The Greeks have to have funding to keep the organization afloat. That's any organization. I don't care what it is. If it's an Elks, a Moose Lodge, they depend on their members to put money into the pot to keep the organization afloat. T, you want to hit the link? Because nobody wants to hit the link. If not, I'm going to check out of here. So talking about the frat members, what's the point? Because you wouldn't know that had he not been a fraternity member. Joy says, good grief. Not everything positive in an investigation is FBI related and everything negative is state or local. I don't know who is releasing updates, but a possibility is that ISP has an excellent communications team. A Snell has done well in the interviews I have seen. A Snell, okay? Thank God. I just think the local officers are in over their head. It's a super small town with little crime, let alone a quadruple murder. Glad the FBI is there to help. I concur. I'm very happy they're there too. Thank you, Jesus. Hello, everybody in the chat. If you're in this chat, please scroll up to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to the information that the Queen has brought to you today. Agreed. Also, I like how they clearly stated how information that has both been shared with the family and the public is being extensively controlled to the point where it will get frustrating and annoying, but is what must happen to continue the investigation. Looks like it would help. This is another person. Looks like it would help LE best for anyone interested in digging and sleuthing to focus on finding info about E and X at the fraternity and or their activities and contacts from 9 p.m. Well, if Kaylee is the target, it doesn't matter what Xana and Ethan were doing. Why would it matter what they were doing that night if they were not the target? Okay, T. Thank you, Eden. Is it important we know what they were doing that night? They were a couple. Couples do go places, drive places, sit in parked cars. It's what people do. And that's the point of living. You don't give an itinerary of your every movement. 1. 2, you're not expecting to be murdered. So if I'm not expecting to be murdered, I'm not going to tell people every place I'm going. And if they have a timeline of when the kids return, that should be also the same source that leads you to where they were after the frat party. So something's strange there. I don't know what you're saying, Rugar. Well, I've given my commentary pertaining to this case. I've broke down and tried to debunk all theories and allegations because I do not have any theories on this case. As I've said before, I will not give a theory pertaining to this investigation. The only time I will give a theory is if they bring forward a suspect, and then I can hypothesize on the suspect and the motive. But I do not know the victims. I don't know their friends. I don't know anything about them. So I can't give a hypothesis, and I refuse to go to Facebook land, searching through Facebook photos and videos to point out who I think the killer is and who ain't talking, who left town, all of that, because to me, that's just a witch hunt, which some of you have engaged in and thoroughly enjoy, because some of you have jumped on the bandwagon on every person they've pointed the finger at in this investigation. And if these children were loners, didn't talk with anybody or deal with anybody, who would you be pointing the finger at then? I'm just curious. You find out somebody's in a sorority fraternity. You want to implicate the sorority and the people in it, but yet have no knowledge of anything nefarious going on with the organizations pertaining to the investigation. You got a problem with the Grubhub people. You got a problem with whoever car they got in and got a ride. You got a problem with Jeremy because he wouldn't shut up and quit talking to the news. You got a problem with a boyfriend. You got a problem with an ex-boyfriend. You want to implicate the parents in the murders. When are you going to stop? You're going from one person to the other. Why didn't she do this? Why didn't he do this? So who is the killer then? Because it's disrespectful to point the finger at people that you don't know anything about. That's the whole point of this story. The killer could be anybody. Friend, somebody they dated, didn't date, liked, somebody in the inner circle that wanted to be in the circle, somebody that was jealous of a relationship that happened, didn't happen, somebody that's been putting their bid in to be in a relationship, been rebuffed, a bad date. Could be anybody. Could be anybody. Somebody watching her on social media. Is Kaylee Goncalves, was she, the intended target? And why? And are her wounds evident of a brutal attack, malicious, intentional homicide? That is the question in this live stream. Well, I'm going to check out of here. Since there's no feedback I thank you all for your time. Please check out The Queen and Mountain Magic Christmas, starring Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson on NBC. You also can view the movie on Peacock. It aired last Thursday at 8 p.m. Thank you for your support, kind words. I'm in the opening of the movie in the casino scene. Allegedly, there are 2 shots of the Queen. I only saw the one. But thank you all for the kind words, watching the movie and commenting here at this channel. Thank you so very much. But I have become just floored with talking about this story. To me, it has become redundant as Debbie Collier, Quentin Simon, and also Summer Wells' case. They're neck to neck to me, all of them. And also Cal City. Because there comes a point when people should have enough common sense about true crime. There's no logic behind true crime because the person has done the unthinkable, which is murder. And I see that in talking about true crime, it draws out the worst of man and woman and child, and people come up with all these wild theories and just start implicating anybody with a pulse in the storyline, which is disrespectful. Because you don't know who has done anything to people. And there are those small occurrences where a person could have had an altercation with a person. Somebody could have been jealous, envious of the individual. Somebody could have wanted the person back in their life, but they are not the killer. That's why you have to be careful in accusing people of murdering someone. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Mind the children. Know that one phone call could save a life of a child or an elderly person or a regular person. Happy holidays. Safe shopping. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't post things on social media. Always have your keys ready before going to your car. Do not veer off strange places trying to buy merchandise from people you do not know. If you are buying things off the marketplace or ads, make sure you go to a well-lit area and or the police station parking lot to do your exchange of monies and items. Don't leave anything out on your seats or floorboards, and don't leave anything out at the dumpster and or your garbage can so people don't know what you've purchased. You're welcome, sweetie. Thank you so much for joining me, sweetheart. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all so much. Yes, I will be back with another information pertaining to Shanquella Robinson for this evening live. And I need to put an upload up pertaining to the rest in the Young Dolph case and take off. Yes, well, I had a lot to bring, dissecting everything, so you know how that goes. But anyway, thank you all for joining me. God bless all of you. Please stay safe. Please go back to the replay of this video to get the information. Everything is from Fox News Nation. If you have any problems with the information, I advise you to consult those sources about the relayed information. Prayers to the families. But I'm going to say this about Mr. Goncalves and his family. They are grieving right now, so naturally I don't have to be in agreement with how they're navigating this case and the storyline, but he needs to tread very lightly in what he says because there are other victims' families that are also grieving. And when you start worrying about wounds and what the police is not telling the public, you may offend the other families and other people listening to the story as if, why my child? Well, that's the same thing those people are thinking. Why my child? I want somebody to blame too, but I don't know the killer and I don't know where he is. And I don't know how many people are involved. And if indeed your child was the target, then your child got my child killed. See, he doesn't think about that when he's saying those things. And I don't understand his commentary on why did the killer go upstairs and point to damage. Your child would be brutalized more if indeed she was the target, and that's where his rage lied. So, you know, this is a very sick situation. But it's not good to make such commentary when other people also lost their children. You come in this live all of 2 seconds. Get the fuck on. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. People coming into the chat all of 1 minute before the live is about to end and haven't heard any of the commentary. I can say what the hell I want. This is my channel, and I do as I see fit. When a person is talking ill about a murder, since you know so much, Savage Sky, you're still disrespecting the other people who have dead children. Because what they're saying to themselves, your child got my child killed. So how you like them apples? Since you know so much and worried about if I lost a child or not and why judge him. I can judge him if I want to because there are other people who lost their children. He's not the only one that lost a child. So it's selfish to just talk about your child and Maddie when 2 other people are dead. And they have friends and families as well who are trying to understand the savagery of losing their child and their friend. So he needs to think before speaking. Whether he's grieving or not, his child wasn't the only child murdered. Since you know so much about death and the loss of a child. Some of you don't need to be in people's chats. You don't need to be commenting. And you don't need to be on social media commenting. This is a commentary channel. And I give my commentary. And I weigh everything on both sides of the coin. And somewhere in the middle. So I don't have to explain nothing I say up here. Common sense is you need to think before speaking when you're talking about dead people. Because you may offend other people who lost a loved one in the same situation. His child is not the only child murdered. So what he's saying may offend the other parents. What about the Shapins? They lost a son. Their son was a triplet, since you know so damn much. Those kids now don't have a brother. Xana is also dead. She has family, friends, assumingly. Maddie had friends, family. So whether they are close or not in family, it's still disrespectful to go on and on about the wounds and this and that and contradict yourself in your commentary to the news. How does that look to keep going on and on about your daughter and the other people are dead as well? So don't come in this playhouse trying to tell me what the fuck I'm talking about. That's you all's problem. You talk too much because you don't know nothing. You don't follow the story. You don't follow the information. You don't read anything. You sit up and follow gossip 24/7 from chat to chat. You don't do no research. I do mine. And the one thing I don't do is build my network off gossip. And I don't sit and do a fucking 2-3 hour live on gossip. I roll with the facts and I give my opinion pertaining to the alleged facts. Because in the end, this ain't nothing but a version of what happened in that house. Police have told us nothing. I wasn't there. I don't know the victims. I don't know the perpetrator. I don't know the motive. But the one thing I'm not going to do is spread rumors about who killed these kids and why. And I will give my opinion when I think something is not right. And Mr. Goncalves is not taking the right approach. Because he's not thinking of the other victims when he starts giving his opinion and talking around in circles about the death of his kid. His kid is not the only one that died. if you didn't know any better, you would think she was the only one that died. How about that? I know he's angry. I know he's mad at the world. He wants somebody to blame. But how about the other victims' families? They're grieving. They want somebody to blame. How would he feel right now if one of those families came up to him and said, hey, your child is the reason my kid's dead. My child be alive right now if it wasn't for your daughter. How about that? That's my point. Other kids died. So that's why he don't need to be talking. Because don't you find it strange? Nobody else is speaking up about the deaths of those kids. Nobody is speaking up about their own child being brutally murdered. Only Mr. Goncalves and their family is talking in circles about points of damage and the person not going upstairs, as if nobody else died in that damn house. Because you got to prove the killer didn't know about the downstairs roommates. Why you worried about my commentary about Mr. Goncalves? That's my point. Why even say that? Don't go upstairs. He shouldn't have went upstairs. Well, if your daughter was the target, that's why he went up there. That's the whole point of the story. Then what did it have to do with the other kids that got killed? Why he killed the other kids? Because he wanted to. Because he wanted to. That's the point of the story. There's no rhyme or reason to murdering any of the kids. Any of the kids. Not just Kaylee. Any of the kids. The perpetrator had no right to kill any of the kids. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the like button. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $McGangie 129 Cash App. Thank you all so much for your time. This is Everyday Shenanigans.